My name is Sally. I live with my husband, Mark, and our daughter, who is now 5 years old and becoming more verbal. I'm a 31 years old working mother. We are not particularly rich or poor, normal, and very close family, which being hit by a storm. The storm was called Victoria, my mother-in-law. Her husband had passed away, and she has been living alone since. She, Mark, and I agreed not to live at the beginning of our marriage. It was hassle-free for all of us. Mark was the only son she conceived her marriage. Living alone was becoming a lot more dangerous. Mark took the time to go and see her seemed troublesome for him. Watching him trying not to burden me tackling on his own, I made up my have her move in with us. My loving husband was working hard. Could I not support him? I pulled myself together and boldly about my decision. He was very surprised and uncertain. To be honest, I wasn't certain either, but also knew the situation needed to be implemented. I told him that I wouldn't be able to come because I still had to take care of the sick daughter and my work. If anything happened to Victoria, he was basically responsible to care for her. We discussed in length about our plan and then welcomed her into our home.
Thank you so much, Sally. I really appreciate it. I
On one spring day, when cherry blossoms were dancing in the wind, she thanked me. Seeing her humble attitude, I thought going to live well together. She remained modest in the beginning, but as the days went by, her true nature was revealed. Her bullying started on me, and how wrong my judgment was.
Sally, this tastes too strong for you. Dilute it.
If I did as I was told, she would have said thank you.
Why did you make it so tasteless? Mocking me? How rude.
This was just the beginning.
All my clothes must be washed by hand. The washing machine will damage then are all good quality.
When I suggested taking them to dry, she replied,
Such a waste of money.
"You're living off of my son's income. You should think more about saving." It could have been solved easily if for them from her own pocket, but she did not seem to consider. Was convinced that she was harassing me as she was smirking the time. By the way, this was the introduction to my first post. The intermediate level was like this.
Sally, do you wear makeup? It doesn't help me much. The base is bad to begin with. My granddaughter is lucky to take my son's look. He looks like me. Hence, she too looks like me. She, a bright future.
And she woke up at 4 in the morning makeup for over 2 hours. She looked like a different person shower. I could respect her as a woman for being beautiful forever, but her foundation was way lighter for tone. She looked like a geisha. Her cheeks were oddly red. Plus, I had a hard time getting her red lipstick off the cups. I knew how rude it was to criticize appearance, so I kept my mouth shut. What I couldn't forgive was that she took my precious makeup set so easily. When I came back from work, the whole was gone. I asked her why she threw it away.
I've been telling you, haven't I? It doesn't work on your ugly face. Don't waste money on useless things. Save, save, save. Don't forget to take off your makeup before bedtime. Oh, how caring I am for this family. You better appreciate me.
Never would I ever. If I were in the mountains, I'd take my head off. The word never would echoed Mar into her ears. Unfortunately, I was not in the mood to go out. The lame thing was that she only bought me presents when we were alone. She chose the time when Mark was at our daughter was in preschool. I hesitated to complain to Mark about my mother, but I still wanted him to be aware of her behavior. I mildly expressed my dissatisfaction with much agony, but it was useless.
I'll speak to her.
When he warned her, she ended up denying tears. She even went as far as to say that trying to frame her. Mark didn't know what to do, but was I, too, had no choice but to roll up my sleeves. If she refused to own up to her act, a plan, a picture was worth 1,000 words. I decided to secretly record the int between her and me and show them too. When I was thinking about where to camera, the advanced level of bully started. It was spring when she moved in. And then a hot summer passed, and one day in winter, Mark was away on a business trip for days. My daughter was also away, staying parents. It was snowing outside. I usually drove my car for work, but put chains on my tires, so I took that day. After work, I normally cleaned the laundry and then cooked dinner. Let me repeat. It was the dead of W at night. Snow was piling up outside. It was definitely not the right site to wash clothes by hand. Despite this, Victoria gave me a pie, laundry with a grin.
Here's my laundry.
These are expensive clothes, so you wash them by hand. She repeated must because she knew she was going to like it.
No, you can't. The color will fade. You leaven damage the fabric. You must wash in cold water. The who.
It's snowing out, you moron.
Are you kidding me? Why should I use cold water on this freezing night? If you care so much, do it yourself.
I yelled at her.
How dare you? I'm elderly. Are you seriously suggesting I wash cold water myself?
I want to know if you are serious.
I'm always serious about my work.
It was worse if she really meant it. Not expecting that I was going to, her face turned red and she at me. I wasn't going to step back.
Why don't you go outside and check for yourself? You've been warm inside all day long, don't realize, do you? It's snowing a lot, and incredibly so.
What the hell? You're telling me to in the cold? You're terrible.
What about you then? You demand me to give you could water in this cold weather.
We argued back and forth. I was determined to fight all the way. I felt bad for Mark, but I couldn't see how I could continue to live with him. I was grimacing at her when she suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. She dragged me while I was taken aback by her strength, which made me doubt her. In no time at all, I was pushed out the door. When I realized what was happening, it locked with a thud.
Victoria,
No need for a daughter-in-law like that.
this is my house. You're the one to...
My scream was useless. She was determined to ignore my banging on the door, was in distress, and didn't know what to do. Not wearing a coat, and not having, thankfully, my phone was in my pocket. I called Victoria. I could hear her phone ringing, but answer. I tried calling Mark, who was supposed to return from his trip that night, but didn't pick up. I had no choice but to text him that I was leaving the house because, your mom, I'll get hypothermia in this snow. Can we go to the diner nearby? I started walking in the snow. I thought about calling 911, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I was sure Victoria would have come up with some excuses to make me look bad. It was better for me to just wait at a diner, wrapped my arms around my freezing body. My breaths hovered around me like a fog. The snow continued to fall without stopping, and it was piling up on the ground. There was no car or bike passing by. It was nighttime, and there was heart in sight. I kept moving forward in the quiet. When I finally arrived at the diner, I couldn't believe my eyes closed due to the snowstorm. The evacuation spot I reached in desperation was closed. What a night! I chose to go to the station then. Instead of calling and waiting for come, I kept moving with a sense of before the heavy snow. The tips of my fingers and toes were numb. When I checked the time on my phone, been an hour since I got thrown out. I called Victoria again, but she didn't answer. Was walking briskly in the scene, completely changed. My feet stopped when I thought I heard something. I was at the beginning of a bridge river. I pricked up my ears.
What's up with that?
I heard it. It was very clear. I ran in the direction of the voice. I looked down from the bridge, which was so high, and to my surprise, I saw a man standing on it. An old lady was calling for help from the shallow part of the river. I ran down the bank as fast as I could into the river. Icy water pierced my feet and legs. The coldness turned to pain, but I kept walking towards her.
Are you all right?
Help me. I can't move. I'm so cold.
Stay with me.
She must have been relieved to find he leaned against me and passed out. Was in a panic. My feet and legs were frozen and numb as I wanted them to be.
Someone help us.
Just when I thought my desperate cry would go unheard, you came along and saved me from despair. I thought I heard a man's voice, and Mark showed up. The moment I saw him rushing toward frenzy, I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes, the next time white ceiling.
Honey, are you awake?
Mark hovered over my face with a core look. He told me I was in the hospital. After he dragged the old lady and me, the river he called 911. It was the night before, and I had been sleeping since then.
Your business trip?
All done. When you called me, I was the plane.
I called you back as soon as I landed, but you didn't pick up. There was a long queue for the taxi train and was just walking back, you going into the river. What luck.
I panicked thinking you were throwing yourself into the river. Well, it seems the old lady did though.
Mark told me that she tried to calm because she was depressed about her. When she hit the water, which was only about 3 feet deep, she came back to herself and tried to get out. But her body was frozen and she couldn't move.
If she hadn't been found at that time, she wouldn't have made it.
So she survived. As I felt relief, I became drowsy again.
Sleep. You must be exhausted. Take rest.
I was reassured by his kind words and the warmth of the hospital room. I slowly drifted off to sleep. Burning with anger at Victoria, I was hospitalized for a few days and regained my energy. When I got home in a short while, I front of it. Victoria never once showed her face was in the hospital and, of course, apologized. She locked me out in the heavy snow and almost killed me. I honestly couldn't live without her. As soon as I stepped inside, I was by the sight of her.
Yikes. Victoria Beckham's new collection is so expensive, it'll make your eyes water.
I wasn't expecting to face her right.
I am very sorry, Sally.
I froze in surprise as her voice came ears.
Pardon me?
Unbelievable, she apologized. As I couldn't say anything, she can't.
I didn't imagine you would end up. I sincerely regret that I kicked you out. Please, forgive me.
She begged in tears.
Well, I'm not sure if it's a mistake or not, but I can see that you have used for instead of form. It should be form instead.
Did she really regret it? She was always so condescending to matter what. She locked me out in the snow. I was very much skeptical. It was too crazy to think there was. I looked at her with suspicious eyes.
What would you do if I said I can you?
Victoria jerked a little.
I thought I was going to die from, if Mark didn't find me, who knows how I would have ended up. I would think that anyone with a wrist would have known what was to happen. If someone were locked out in such a snowfall, if you say you didn't know, does that mean you're crazy?
When I said it, full of sarcasm, her turned red.
What did you say?
She ranted loudly.
Just because I apologized, you try advantage of me. How dare you? Mark said he wouldn't end up in a cohabitation without apologizing to you. So I had no choice but to obey him. Do you understand? I did what I was told. It's over now. Get to your chores if you understand.
She took my little provocation so I gloated over her true intention. She had no remorse, as I expected. I guess people can change overnight, especially a person like her one forever. As if to upset my feelings, she started bullying me right away.
You must wash my clothes in cold water.
She still wanted me to do that.
You must cook only my favorite meat. It's bad. I'll throw it out.
Oh God, no. There was no saving grace for her. I sighed loudly as I turned my face me.
Honey, what should I do now?
Mark stood a short distance away, Jay's side of Victoria. He, my husband, and beloved son of had been standing there since the...
Mark, what about your work?
Victoria was stunned by the sight of...
I took a day off to accompany Sally. Anyway, you're not sorry at all, are you?
Oh, no. That was just a joke course.
If it really was, it wasn't funny.
I told you, didn't I? Be deeply sorry for what you did and apologize to him, and never do anything like that again.
I did apologize, didn't I?
You bounced back right away and were to her again.
I told you that was a joke.
I had told Mark to keep a distance for a bit. Victoria reacted as I expected, or more brilliantly. I couldn't stop laughing at her desperate excuses.
What are you laughing at, Sally? You're...
Hey Mom, I'm talking to you. Right, listen to me.
Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean.
It seemed that even she couldn't evacuate her beloved son. He continued coming down on her, who, in tears.
How can you treat Sally so terribly? She was worried about you and agreed you with us.
I was a little out of line earlier, never bullied her.
She still tried to deny it.
Well, I did comment on her food a bit, but I just wanted her to know that my taste buds were alive. I told her to take my clothes to the cleaner, but she was the one who said it was about money and wanted to wash them away. When I told her to put some makeup, didn't listen, and even threw her cause away in front of me. I sometimes wondered if she was being sarcastic.
What was she talking about? It sounded like she didn't want to take responsibility for everything she had done. I had no choice but to take out my phone, play back the recording.
These are expensive clothes, so you must wash them by hand.
A clear recording of her voice played. She screamed and tried to take my... I dodged her hand and continued that.
You must wash in cold water.
The sound of her dragging me out and the front door, ignoring me, calling out to her. All the abuse she said and did that recorded.
I had this phone in my pocket and was recording.
Whenever I had a conversation with, always set my phone to record mode so that I could keep evidence of her and deeds at any cost. My daily actions must have brought me result. If I didn't have my phone that day, it would have turned out differently.
Do you have anything to say?
Victoria was agitated.
Do you have any last words? Yes.
What do you mean?
This is the end. You trampled on my kindness to take you. I want you out of the house.
No way.
I'm cutting ties with you. You go live alone. I'll never see you again. You still got the money from when your house. If you have a pension on top of it, live comfortably without my support.
Wait a minute, Mark. Hold the thous. Are you going to throw me out? Are you betraying your only parent?
You betrayed me.
She was speechless to his anger and slumped her shoulders. The melting snow falling from the roof sounded louder than usual in the silence. Then it all happened so fast. Mark and I packed up Victoria's belongings while she was depressed and doing nothing. Her hometown, where she was moving to hours by car from our house. She had some relatives there, but they've been estranged until now. I suppose no one was going to pay much attention, even she came back. She also seemed to have no friends, as she never went out when she was with us. I assumed she had a lot of time on her hands, so I thought she must have been entertaining herself, but it no longer mattered to me.
Bye, Grandma.
My daughter flapped her hands to Vi. She finally started to cry when she saw her lovely granddaughter, who was not sad to see her, but smiling at her. A taxi carrying her drove off, leaving sobs behind. It didn't bring up any feelings in me. I was just thinking she got a self wound and walked into the house with refreshed mind. Days and months passed by. Victoria has been living alone, and I sometimes receive calls from her, assume she's well. We have never met up or spoken to, he declared back then. She will continue to live alone, and the cost of destroying the happiness she received was a high price to pay. I've gotten back peace of mind after she left. I'm serving tea to a surprise visitor, listening to the sound of the washing spinning. My guest is an elderly woman, the same lady I had saved that snow. She became pessimistic about her life living alone for a while and had a mindset. But then she felt the icy river water and wanted to try living a little longer. My son told me to move in with his.
That's great news.
His wife is a very nice person, but he doesn't want to be a burden. So I've decided to move closer to the city.
Oh, I see.
My son lives far away, and I don't see him often. I've been alone since my husband passed away, and I thought nothing good could come of living. But now I know it doesn't have to be that way.
I'm very happy to hear that.
As long as I'm alive, I would live. I am really thankful to you for rescuing me that day. We smiled at each other. The old lady lived hard, alone, and found happiness. Victoria voluntarily disrupted her own cohabitation with her family. There are many ways to spend retirement. Everyone is different, but depending on your attitude, it can be happy or unhappy. Looking at the two old women, I have idea of what I want my future to be. I remind myself how to live in a peaceful and happy way. To have a happy retirement, you need to plan ahead. Start by setting goals for what you want to achieve in your golden years, such as traveling or pursuing hobbies. Then create a budget that allows you to live comfortably within your means while still saving for the future. Finally, consider investing some of your money in retirement accounts like 401 Nex and Iris to take advantage of tax benefits and compound interest. With careful planning and smart financial decisions, you can enjoy a fulfilling and financially secure retirement.